group since March of 18, and the way she describes her business is like this. It used to be most people could not afford to hire an interior decorator. Suzanne is here to change all that. Whether you choose one-on-one consultation or a small group setting, with her expert guidance, she can design your dream home. You deserve a beautiful home, and now you can afford it with Suzanne Smith. Oh, so beautiful home.
Thank you. Today I'm actually going to talk about what we do before we design homes, which is we declutter. And I'm going to talk about clutter with you. So I have a question. When you think about clutter, what comes to your mind? What words come to your mind?
My house.
Stuff.
My house, stuff.
The depression.
Depression. My wife's stuff.
I feel like I'm caving in on the inside lately.
Yeah, yeah. It's an issue for most of us. How many people here actually feel like clutter's not an issue for you? Because there's always some people.
It's a good thing.
Oh, you have it, but it's a good thing. Okay. I love
He's in
that.
denial.
I love that. How many people don't feel like they don't have clutter? Yeah, great. 4 out of us.
The
5?
rest of us are very jealous.
So that's the minority, and that's true probably for America. We have so much stuff. I was reading some statistics. We have so many storage units that every single American could fit inside storage units with room to spare. We have 7.3 square feet per person. That's 330 million people could fit inside all the storage units in America and not be cramped. We could do a little dance. We'd have room. It's a lot of stuff. We have 25% of people who have a 2-car garage can't get both cars in. 35% can only get 1 car in. Anybody here can't get a car in a garage?
Because my truck's too big though.
But it's not a problem for you because you've made peace with it. That's actually, yeah, I won't argue with that. What is the percentage of children, of the world's children live in America? Anyone know? It's 3%. America's children have 40% of the world's toys. The average 10-year-old has over 300 toys, and they play with 12 daily. We have a lot of stuff. What is this telling you?
America's great.
America. When you look at issues like this, that people are feeling overwhelmed, it's chronic, it tells me that we're acting from a more primitive part of our brain when it comes to stuff. Because if it was a problem and we could solve it easily, we would have. And when we have problems that we don't solve easily, we're not really using our frontal cortex to solve the problem. We're being motivated by something a little bit more base. So those are things that are harder to change. People's sexual habits. Why was HIV so hard to change? Because people's sexual habits are hard to change. Why is it hard to lose weight? Because the way we eat is hard to change. So I think clutter actually, I'm gonna lop it in with sex and food. Things, stuff. We're using a different part of our brain, and that's why we struggle with it so much. So why is that important? It means that when you have a problem that you can't solve easily, you need to put a lot of structure around it. And that's where professional declutterers come in, people like myself. What does that structure mean? Let me tell you how I got here and how I created the structure. I'm a project manager. I've been doing international development work since I was 24 in the Peace Corps, and I just stayed abroad. I did get a master's in psychology. I came back, but I went abroad again. So I've been working overseas in humanitarian work for my entire adult life until about a few years ago, when I moved back to the United States. And during those years, 25 years in project management, I got very good at sequencing. I got very good at project management and monitoring and evaluation. And so how does that relate to clutter? When we have a project, like cleaning out your garage, for instance, or cleaning out your house, it's really important to start with the end in mind. Who's heard that before? Start with the end in mind. So where are we going? What does it look like when we get there? How do we even meet most people? How do we begin to declutter? What do we do?
Make a list.
Throw stuff away.
We go in and we throw stuff away. What else do we do?
Pull everything out.
Pull everything out. Yeah, get busy. And when do we stop?
When I get interrupted.
When you get interrupted? 2 hours in? When the Broncos start. So often my experience is that we start because we feel some overwhelm, some like agitation. And so we like sort of dive in and we get some relief. Sometimes we create more chaos. And then we stop because there's overwhelm. We've come across issues. We don't know what to do with this thing. We feel emotional. We feel tired. So we're still operating out of a primitive part of our brain. So if we can start with the end in mind, it means actually saying, what would this look like if it was done? How would I feel? What would be here? What wouldn't be here? So you actually have a goal. And you can write that goal down, and that makes it more concrete, more powerful. Who knows the Abraham Lincoln saying, if I had 4 hours to chop down a tree,
Oh, yeah. Sharpening the axe.
I'd spend the first 3 sharpening the axe. So I address, clutter a little bit like that. I say, let's stop for a moment and see what's going on. Let's prepare. What does some of the preparation look like? Well, it's really important to, one, know how things are going to leave your house. So before you start, depending on the room, let's say you take, we did another clean out of our garage this weekend in 93-degree weather. It was great. So I had to know where the stuff was going to go. So you have to have a place to stage your stuff. So where are the things leaving the garage, where might they go?
Goodwill.
Goodwill, yes, absolutely. There's a donate, right? Goodwill. What's another one?
Other side of the garage.
Other side of the garage. That's actually accurate. Some things stay in the garage. So yes.
Like hard to recycle places.
Charm, Center for Hard to Recycle Materials.
Out on the curb with a free sign.
Out on the curb with a free sign. Yeah? Hazmat, right? All the chemicals, the old paint, go to hazmat. Maybe you have things to return to other people, specific people. This goes to this person, this goes to that person. Maybe you have things to sell. Maybe you have things to repair. There can be 7 or 8 outgoing funnels from your garage. And so identifying those beforehand and making a place for them really expedites it. Yeah, this gets to be repaired. That's the repair box. That's the giveaway box. That's the trash box. That's the recycle box. That's the hard to recycle box. That's the hazardous waste box. That gets to return to someone or goes to someone specifically. So when you have those spaces, when you begin, it's a lot easier. So what happens when we begin? We start looking at our stuff, putting stuff in different boxes, and then we find something, what? More like,
Been looking for that.
I've been looking for that, I didn't know where it was. Thank God, that's always a great feeling, right? Who here has a piece of furniture from a relative that you are storing and not using? Good, okay. So you're storing it, not using it, it's from a relative. What's the issue here? Who wants to volunteer? Why are you storing it for? And
it's not really mine, but my husband's grandmother died. So he took some pieces of furniture, but they don't go in our house.
And where are they?
In the garage.
Okay, good. I just gave away an old antique rocking chair from Indiana from the late 1800s that I could not sell. And it was for my great-grandma. And in Colorado, antiques don't sell for anything. In the East Coast, there's value. Yeah. Antiques in the East Coast go. Here, good luck. Everybody wants modern crate and barrel, room and board. So, yeah, I'm right with you. So one of the things we can do when we come across those items that have that sentimental value is really, first thing you do is when you come across an item you have sentimental attachment to, in the middle of a decluttering, I ask people to get a piece of paper, write it down, and keep moving. There's an I don't know or I'm not sure box. So we have all these funnels, right? Trash and recycle, hard recycle, give away. And then we have an I don't know, I'm not sure. Why is that important? Because the momentum is broken every time we struggle with that thing. Go put it away, we'll deal with it, but get some momentum, clear your stuff. Don't hang up on the 7% of stuff that you're not sure and stop the 93% that you kind of go kind of quickly, right? So momentum is a big part of this. Get rid of your stuff, put it in the right funnel, and then come back to the hard to do stuff. And after you've cleared all the other stuff, because you're already in a different mind space. Once you've been just getting things going and going, you feel better. You have less, you can see there's space, and then you go back to your grandma's chair or the table, and you can really say, hey, what's my intention with this table? Am I ever going to use this table? What's the history here, and what's the future for this table? And sometimes just making the distinction that the table's not my grandma's not the table. As silly as that sounds, we collapse them. We collapse these people and the love we have for them and our relationship and the importance they had in our lives. We collapse that into that thing they had, which is just a thing. It's just a table. It's not your grandma. So, and again, it's something I struggle with too. I have antiques that I'm now giving away that I inherited. And so it's important to give yourself the space and time to do it so it doesn't feel like it's wrenched out of your life. But it's just the natural next step, and you consider it. And also, you can have imaginary, so depending on who you are and what your inclinations are, I can walk a client through imaginary conversations with your grandma. Hey, Grandma, I have this table in my garage I'm not using. What would you like me to do with it? What would your grandma say?
Get rid of it.
You know what, and sometimes helping people frame it as an act of generosity. Is it generous to keep a table that someone else could use that you are not using? Someone else could use it. What's the best place for this table to live? In your garage or in someone's dining room with their family happily eating around it? So I think that's some of the processes psychologically I walk my clients through when you come across stuff that's hard to get rid of. I think that in closing, before we open up to questions, I would say that clutter is something we all live with. My clients often say to me, well, I'm really embarrassed, Suzanne, to show you this, and show you my cabinet, or show you my garage, whatever it is. And I'm like, your house must be amazing. I'm like, I'm a normal, busy person. I have some clutter. Life changes. You take on a new sport. You give up a sport. You take on an activity. Things are moving. So things are coming into your house and don't always leave your house when you're done with them. So it's this revisiting. I think for me, going around a room 3 times in about 2 years. So if we started working together, we do it, I'd work with you on your declutter issues, you get rid of a lot of stuff. Come back in 12 months. You're already used to living with less. Your criteria changes. So we can go through again. And then a year after that, so over a 2-year period, the 3rd time, you're again used to living with less, and there's a whole nother layer that can go out. So it's not a one time we're done. One time you'll feel really good. Things will get off the floor on the walls, you'll get rid of a lot of stuff, no question. But getting used to living with less stuff is a process. And it should feel good, and it shouldn't be stressful. Not the way living with too much stuff is stressful for us. So I thought that's the end of my presentation part, and I'd like to open it up to some questions. Great.
When inevitably I go through and I throw something away, and then 2 weeks later, I'm like, man, I could use that.
I could have used that. It's so true. That happens to me too. In fact, that's something you need to make peace with if you're going to declutter. Because what's the criteria for getting rid of stuff? What's the criteria you use? Good. That's the normal criteria. You can set a time limit. You can say in the last 2 years, 3 years, depending on the thing, the last year. That's the normal criteria. So, the alternative to that, and that's a good criteria, but you don't know the future. So the alternative, and the reason we keep clutter is because we have a different criteria, which is,
I may need it.
I might need it someday. Well, guess what? That's true of every single thing you own and a lot of stuff you don't own. Okay, so the criteria of, I haven't used it, and the criteria of I may need it someday are in complete opposition. And if you go with the decluttering criteria of I haven't used it, you inevitably will need it. So you will have to go out and get that thing again. Not a lot of them, but it does happen. You have to sort of make peace with it. I'm going to give away some stuff, and you know what? 1 or 2 of those things I might need again. Yeah, but you don't know, you can't predict which one it is. And you can probably get it pretty easily. You can borrow it, you can go back to the thrift store, see if it's still there. So I think that's a really good point, is just making peace with the fact that, yeah, you may give some stuff away that you may need, but because it's impossible to predict that criteria, I may need it someday, will stop your decluttering efforts completely. Jim?
Yeah, so I heard you say you came back and got a master's in psychology, is that correct? So do you engage in couples counseling while you do this process? What might be junk and what might be precious beyond that?
Absolutely. And I think because everyone, we are attached to our stuff, and it's a process, it's something you don't force. And so if, you can get rid of your stuff, but you can't get rid of your wife's stuff.
It'd be really hard to get rid of her son's Doc Martens from 1989, for instance.
Well, I think we can bronze them. Can we bronze them?
We might be able to do that.
So so there's a I forgot the other box. Memorabilia. I think it's really important to have a memorabilia box. So you come across something you don't use, you don't need, you're attached to it, it doesn't take up a lot of space. You're like, you know what, I just like having this little thing. I like it. This is what I won when I was 7. I won this award when I was 7. So we have a box, and it should, or 2 boxes of memorabilia. It's fine, right? It's fine if that's the thing, is those Doc Martens. Put it in the memorabilia box. The memorabilia box can take up the garage.
It would, for me, be my crescent wrenches.
Your crescent wrenches.
I could use it.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you do your pricing according to the job, the time, hours?
I just do it by my hourly rate. And for the TRP, I'm giving you a discount of 65 an hour, but normally it'd be 75 an hour. And because I have these, I didn't go into these worksheets, so I've created a workbook so that you can do it on your own. I don't think you should be wed to me. I can give you the boost, I can give you the structure, but some people like to really, once they get moving, they can do a lot on their own because they have these worksheets. So they have the processes. So the piece of paper, what do you get stuck on? And then once they do it with me for a while, they're like, oh, I can do this on my own. Get my boxes, get my piece of paper, write down my questions. So I think that's really important that you're not dependent on the declutterer. Oh, hold on, Miss Kathy, and then you.
Actually, he asked my question
About spouses?
Yeah, my husband keeps stuff from way back.
Yeah.
Way back.
Yeah.
And
So-
just won't let it go.
Yeah, so, and then that's just.
Let it go, let it go.
Yeah, so what does that mean to him? What's his intention? And that would be, having an independent third person just explore that. Because I don't have an agenda. I don't have an agenda with him giving his stuff up. So it just becomes an exploration. What's this mean? What does it mean to you to have it? What does it do for you? And seeing if some of those needs can be met in other ways. And actually identifying if there's any cost to him at all to keeping it. If there's no cost to keeping it, then why get rid of it? Right? And that's, yeah,
And on that principle.
yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
What do you think of trying to sell things?
Selling things is great if I think they need to be of considerable worth because of the effort. If you price your time, and you really value your time, my experience with selling things is that it's hard, and people, say they'll show up and you're home, okay, I'll meet you at 5 o'clock, and you look at this thing.
The $20 chair, you spend 3 hours.
Yeah, and how many emails and texts, and sorry, I can't come today, can I come tomorrow? Oh, that my great grandma's rocking chair, this guy was like, it was like, to give it away. It was like 7 texts in 4 different days. And it's like, oh my God. Right, so selling stuff, I think, depending how you value your time, it needs to be a valuable item. If it's 20 bucks. Depends. Yeah. Yeah, Mike.
I find that my reasons for clutter is that I have inadequate storage. I don't have proper places to put the stuff, so it all just ends up in the 3rd bedroom or something.
Yeah, right. And so, one of the mistakes people make is they go out and buy storage stuff immediately and they just organize their clutter. Because that's easier. At least you have to keep it. And now it's on the wall. So we always encourage people to actually figure out what you have and what you want to keep, and then gauge the storage you need for that. So to go in that third bedroom, clean it out from the stuff you really don't want, and then gauge what kind of storage do I need for that, and then look around the rest of your house. I mean, there's a process, right, there's a sequence here to figure out how to place everything correctly.
My other favorite one is when the drawer will no longer open because there's something jammed in there. And you have to spend about 3 hours wire trying to get the drawer open.
Yeah. Are there any other questions?
Do you help people put garage sales together if they have so much stuff?
Yeah, yeah. And there's some shortcuts for that, is by putting things in areas rather than labeling things. This is my $5 table, that's my $10 table. And then and then after the garage sale, you have a plan to get rid of that stuff. You have a truck coming, or you have a plan. Whatever doesn't sell, just give away. That's really important as the second step to the garage sale. Unless some really key pieces didn't sell, and you're like, no, I can get money, then you can have a second one. Yeah.
I tend to carry philosophy from my work to my home. And so at work, I have to retain everything for 7 years.
Right.
Like I have to have it filed or,
Yes.
yeah. So I see myself doing this at home. My telephone bill back in 19, I got that here somewhere. I got boxes and boxes. How long do we need to keep those type of things without?
They're all available electronically now. The telephone company keeps your bill, and you can get it. Sometimes there is a charge. Sometimes there's a charge for getting stuff that's more than 1 or 2 years old, but it's all available. And the real question is, what are you going to use it for? And how easy at hand do you need it? So how easy at hand, do you need those, do you ever refer those telephone bills from a few years ago?
Well, I keep them just in case they come back saying, oh, you haven't paid your bill from last September. Oh, yeah, got it right here, it shows it's paid, if I have to do that.
Right, because they have that same information that you printed out, they have that.
So I can get rid of all those boxes?
You can.
Okay.
You can.
Mike may have some room in his third bedroom.
But I charge.
By the square foot?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. That was
That was
really
great.